project, a very exciting project with Jazz Services. I wonder, is Chris Hodgkins here at the moment? Not at the moment. He is coming to the conference. And also there are two jazz bands, Stuart Brown Sextet tonight and Philip Clout's Quartet tomorrow. Jazz Services put together a call for artists to apply for funding to do rural touring, which we worked with them on. They had an incredible 54 applications, which we were really, really pleased at. And I think one of the most important parts of the process that struck me was that at the selection panel meeting there were 24 jazz organisations from the Glasgow Jazz Festival, from the Scottish Jazz Federation, from Birmingham Jazz, Jazz Jamaica, Tomorrow's Warriors, all talking about rural touring and what would represent jazz on this circuit. So hopefully it's going to be a very, very important pilot project. There is some information here specifically about it. If you see the bands and you really want to get involved in this project with your scheme, I beg you to talk to Chris or a member of the bands that are here and register your interest, because it's all got to happen in this financial year. They've got a budget to fund the bands to do rural touring, and it's a great opportunity, and I think that you know, it's a sort of sectoral partnership that we wish to encourage in art forms that are not sort of readily seen on the rural touring circuit so far. So we're very pleased about that. The last bullet point in this objective is about establishing working partnerships with touring scheme consortia. Those of you who took part in Esme Fairburn, we had 6 years, we did a 6-year project with Esme Fairburn where we encouraged touring scheme consortia to work together, and that's been an extremely successful way of bringing new innovative work onto the circuit. So we want to continue that. A very exciting prospect came onto the horizon through our MPO funding, in that the northern area of the Arts Council earmarked £25,000 for NRTF to support the development of high quality touring product for the north of England. And we see that very much as a pilot project, that if we can set up something that is really exciting in one particular area of the Arts Council over the next 3 years, then it can be rolled over, hopefully rolled over into other consortium areas. It's very early days, we're still not sure what that means, and the board has still got to discuss it, but we were very pleased to receive that news. Lastly, we've been working on encouraging an associate membership scheme, working with small-scale venues who are in rural areas, but who are not part of rural touring schemes, or there are no rural touring schemes, and getting them involved in an associate way, an associate network of rural touring, so that they can help strengthen us and we can help strengthen them, and we'll be looking at that as well in the last 5 years. Next one? Yep.
So, here we go again. Promote better understanding the value of rural community touring through research and advocacy. The main thing to say about that is that in the business plan we referenced the fact that we would develop a communication strategy. So that hasn't started yet. The board, we're going to find someone to come and facilitate a session at the next board meeting, I think it's in September. But that doesn't mean to say that there's a sort of a vacuum in the meantime. John and I made a presentation to the Village Hall Advisors group that sits underneath ACRE, which was very interesting. Later this month there'll be a couple of articles in Arts Professional. There will be an article that I'll have written about something to do with rural touring. But the kind of the orchestration of whether it's marketing, communications, advocacy, we just need to kind of organise that. So we'll be doing that over the next few months with the board in particular.
Yeah, and we obviously need to make sure that the new ICT digital work that we talked about fits in with all the advocacy work too. So we'll be looking at that. This third point, the board is really solidly behind. This is celebrating stories at promoter and local level. You'll have heard promoters' voice is very much part of this conference. And the NRTF has been encouraging promoter involvement with the NRTF through bursaries, and that's increased year on year. And I think this year is by far the largest amount of promoters will be here tomorrow, won't they, to take part in the NRTF conference. As I said earlier, we're looking at strengthening governance of the NRTF by promoter representation, and projects like Edinburgh and Decibel, which increase, hopefully, promoter confidence and getting them involved in the NRTF are very important too. And the board want to look at the introduction of a rural touring month, which is an advocacy awareness of all the work that's done by the myriad of, I think it's 2,300 promoter groups throughout the UK who work in this field. So we'll be looking at that as part of the communication strategy work in the autumn about how we can introduce that. And if you have any ideas at this year's conference about how a rural touring month could work, we'd be really, really keen to hear your ideas.
Yeah, and then research, data, information, statistics are really important. I feel very strongly about research. I mean, unless you carry out research, to some extent, you're an invisible entity. And I feel that the piece of work that we did some years ago, which resulted in Only Connect, has been a very, very influential piece of research. So, again, looking forward, goodness knows where we might go with that, but at the moment, we're kind of, if you like, shadowing a piece of research that Night Out have commissioned around sustainability with, is it University of Wales? University of Cardiff?
Yeah, Cardiff University.
Cardiff University, and it's looking at sustainability from an environmental, a social and an economic point of view. And I do think that in a climate with peak oil, where people are thinking twice about car journeys, that there is something that is very timely about the context in which we do the work that we do. Finally, in terms of providing tools for advocacy at a local level, I don't know if any of you have used it, but some years ago we had a number of sections on the website about things that you might consider doing to try and captivate and to retain your local authority funding, for example. We're into a completely new world. I mean, working in Somerset where Somerset is a pariah county as far as I'm concerned. The county council cut its entire arts budget. Mendip District Council cut its budget. I'm going to have a rant for a minute. I mean, Mendip, which is the home of the Glastonbury Festival, Charles Hazelwood, conductor, composer, lives in Mendip, and Mendip is a public arts funding free zone. 140,000 people, there is no local authority, there's no public funding that goes into that area at all. How do we as an arts organisation address that? How do we work with that? I think there are 2 further years of cuts that are coming down the line, and it's difficult to know. I talked to Sean about a situation in Shropshire where the local authority is making it looks like they're going to make everyone redundant and then re-employ them on a lower salary level. What the implications are for us, in many cases, local authorities are as important to many schemes' core funding as the Arts Council funding is. And so we will be looking at ways in which we can do what we can do to buttress that. I think the important thing is that, in my experience, local authorities want a local message. They don't necessarily want a national message, but for me it's a question of what we can do at a national level that will work at a local level. So now I think we hand over to John. And we're running out of time.
Yeah. So thank you very much, David and Ralph. Those are some of the bits about what we're thinking about for the way forward. Thank you for your time. We thought that this year, given the nature of the changes that have occurred and the changes which are going to occur and what's happening in the arts world, it was worth really laying out some of the detail there. There's even more detail behind that. Could have been another hour. So thank you for your time. The NRTF has had an uplift from the Arts Council. It's had 2 successful G4A bids in the past couple of months. I mean, this is a fantastic foundation to work from over the next few years, and as we go into what I'm terming the NPO years at the end of this financial year. This is now underpinned by a strong business plan, and those ideas will gradually be developed into the NPO KPIs. How many of us have got to start getting our heads around KPIs soon? But we know that there's still a challenge ahead. A lot of that stuff still needs more resources, time, people and money. And we know that that's a challenge which the board has got over the next few years. I go back to where I left off earlier. The NRTF recognises that the sector is made up of a number of key constituents, including the touring schemes, the voluntary promoters, the small-scale venues, the festivals, the performing companies and artists, and an awful lot of other organisations that support small-scale touring. We want to exist to work strategically across those partners to develop work and to deliver high-quality arts experiences and strengthen rural and other communities. Those words are lifted from within our business plan. During the next 5 years, the NRTF aspires to strengthen a thriving rural and community touring sector, and we're looking at a possible sort of change in the way that we describe ourselves as a possibility, which would be interesting to get your feedback on that particular idea. Anyway, that's enough from us. Thank you for your time.